A Japanese father sets a bowl of soup on the floor. His 2-year-old crawls toward it, slowly, spilling a little. He watches. He doesn't reach over. He doesn't say careful. He just waits. That child is now 19, top of his university, and his father says the soup bowl was where it started. I know that sounds strange. Stay with me. Because here's what nobody talks about when they talk about Japan. Yes, their students rank among the highest in the world for math, reading and science. Yes, their average IQ scores have been elite for over 50 years straight. But the classroom didn't do that. The classroom is too late. What researchers are quietly discovering is that the gap is built or missed in the first 3 years of life. In a bath, at a dinner table, in a moment when a parent chooses not to help. These aren't theories, they're patterns, documented across millions of children, and they begin with something most Western parents have never even heard of. Number 4, they engineer closeness, skinship. In Japan, there is a concept called amae. It loosely means a child's instinct to depend on a parent's warmth, and rather than discouraging it, Japanese parenting philosophy leans into it completely. Babies are carried against the body, not in front-facing strollers, for the first 18 months to 2 years of life. Mothers and children bathe together every single night. Co-sleeping is normal, common, and continues far longer than Western pediatricians typically recommend. And here's what the research says about that. A landmark study in developmental psychology found that infants who experienced consistent repeated physical closeness in their first year showed actual changes at the epigenetic level, meaning the genes that regulate how a child handles stress were physically switched on differently. Not theoretically, molecularly. Research from Notre Dame's Early Human Development Lab found that these same children, the ones held more, carried more, touched more, showed stronger emotional regulation and higher cognitive scores years later, not months later, years. The Western world told parents, don't spoil them. Give them independence early. Don't let them sleep in your bed. Japan never listened, and their children's brains reflect that choice. Here's what I think is worth sitting with. Japan is not a soft, simple country. It built the bullet train. It leads the world in robotics. It is relentlessly modern in every direction. And yet, at home, with their babies, they held on to something ancient. Because they understood that modern doesn't mean cold. Progress doesn't require distance. The first gift a developing brain needs isn't stimulation, it's safety. And you can't buy safety, you can only give it. Number 3. They feed the brain before they feed the ego. In most Western homes, a baby's first food is something beige. Rice cereal, apple puree, mashed sweet potato. Soft, sweet, easy. We choose these foods because we think gentle means simple. In Japan, the first foods are miso broth, soft white fish, steamed daikon, seaweed, tofu, tiny flakes of salmon, food that has real flavour, real complexity, real nutritional density. And underneath that cultural habit is a biological truth that most Western parents are never told directly. The infant brain is approximately 60% fat by composition, and a significant portion of that fat is a single compound, DAR, an omega-3 fatty acid found almost exclusively in seafood. Without adequate DAR in the first 2 years of life, the brain cannot construct its own architecture correctly. That is not a metaphor. That is cellular biology. The Allspack study, one of the longest-running child development studies ever conducted, tracking thousands of children from birth through adolescence, found a clear, measurable pattern. Children whose mothers consumed higher quantities of seafood during pregnancy and early feeding had higher verbal IQ scores, stronger fine motor development, and better social cognition by age 8. Not slightly better. Measurably, documentably better. Japanese children consistently rank among the highest in the world for dietary DAR intake. They have since childhood, for generations. Now I want to be careful here. Every country has different feeding guidelines. Every child is different. Always speak with your own doctor before changing how you feed your infant. But I'll say this plainly. There is a difference between feeding a baby calories and feeding a baby brain food. Most of what we offer in the West is the first thing. Japan has always prioritized the second. And here is something the researchers don't put in the headlines, but that I think matters enormously. The Japanese approach to early food doesn't just build the brain, it builds a child's entire relationship with eating. A child whose first bite of food is complex, savoury and real grows up expecting food to be interesting. That expectation follows them for life. Number 2. Katorakeke Yakuji. They never talk down. Go to a park in most Western cities. Listen to how adults speak to babies and toddlers. You'll hear it within seconds. The pitch goes up. The words get smaller. The sentences break into fragments. Ooh, is baby tired? Does baby want the snacky wacky? We do this because it feels warm. It feels loving. And to be fair, researchers have found that melodic, responsive speech, what scientists call parentese, does support early language development in some ways. But there is parentese. And then there is something else. Something that, with the best intentions, communicates to a baby, you are too small to understand real words. In Japan, there is a practice called katarikake. It means, roughly, narrating care. From the first days after birth, Japanese mothers speak to their babies in complete normal sentences. They describe what they're doing. They explain why. They talk about the world outside the window. They narrate cooking dinner. They comment on the weather as if the baby is an adult companion who happens to be very small. The baby cannot respond. That is not the point. Because one of the most important studies in all of child development, Hart and Risley's 30 million word research, found something that quietly changed how every serious researcher thinks about early childhood. The number of words a child hears before the age of 3 is one of the single strongest predictors of their academic success a decade later. Not their toys, not their preschool, the words they heard before they could speak. By age 3, some children had heard 30 million more words than others. 30 million. And the gap in cognitive performance that opened because of that difference did not close. It widened. The Japanese mother talking to her infant about the rain isn't being eccentric. She is building a library, word by word, sentence by sentence, before the child can read a single one. And here is what I find genuinely beautiful about this habit. It costs nothing. There is no product to buy, no curriculum to enroll in, no app to download. You already have the tool. You just have to decide to use it differently. Talk to your baby like they're already listening, because they already are. Number 1, the habit I cannot fully explain, but cannot argue with. Real responsibility. There is a television show in Japan that has aired on national television since 1991. It is called Hajimete no Otsukai. The title translates to something like My First Errand. The premise sounds impossible to a Western parent. Cameras, hidden so the child doesn't know, follow toddlers as young as 2 years old as they walk alone through real city streets to complete a real errand. Go to the shop, buy this, bring it home. Real traffic, real strangers, real consequences if they get it wrong. The show is not a novelty. It has been beloved for over 3 decades because it reflects something Japan actually believes, that children, given the chance, are capable, not eventually. Now. From the moment a Japanese child can walk steadily, they are given real tasks. They pour their own water, they put away their own shoes, they carry items at the grocery store, they clean their own space, they are trusted with things that feel, to a Western eye, too advanced for their age. And the research, remarkably, confirms this instinct with almost uncomfortable precision. Marty Rossman at the University of Minnesota conducted a study that tracked participants from early childhood all the way through adulthood over 25 years of follow-up. She was trying to identify the factors that predicted adult success. Not school success, adult life success, career, relationships, contribution. The single strongest predictor she found, stronger than IQ scores, stronger than family income, stronger than parental education, was whether the child had been given real household responsibilities beginning between the ages of 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Most of us are still tying their shoes for them at 4, carrying their bags, finishing their sentences, doing things in 5 seconds that they could do themselves in 5 minutes. We do it because we love them, because it's faster, because watching them struggle feels, in the body, like watching them suffer. But here is what Japanese parenting philosophy quietly insists, and what the data confirms. That struggle is not suffering. That struggle is construction. Every time a child works through something hard without rescue, their brain is not failing. It is building. The frustration is the point. The falling is the point. The spilled soup is the point. We are not protecting them when we step in. We are interrupting an architect mid-construction and finishing the wall ourselves. So here is what I think, after spending a long time with this research. The countries that consistently raise children with the highest cognitive outcomes are not doing something exotic. They're not running special programs or buying better tools. They are doing something harder and simpler at the same time. They hold their children close. They feed them real food. They speak to them with full respect. And then, and this is the part that breaks every parenting instinct, they step back and let them struggle through something real. It is not a method. It is not a curriculum. It is a belief that the child in front of you is already more capable than you think, that your job is not to clear the path. Your job is to trust them to walk it. You can start tonight. You don't need anything you don't already have. The only thing you need to change is the way you see them. If one of these habits changed how you think, even slightly, let me know in the comments which one. I read every one. See you in the next video.